We want to bring in Randi Weingarten here, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, and Jason Altmire, former Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania and the CEO of Career Education Colleges and Universities, to talk more about this. Welcome, both of you. Jason, I do want to start with you tonight. You are a Democrat, and when you were in Congress, you were on the Education Committee. You say you saw lots of waste. Do you think the Department of Education should be eliminated, and why?
Well, Congress has to act to eliminate the department, so it can't be done by a presidential order. But if you look at, a lot has been said about the K through 12 impact. Most of the money that flows through the Department of Education flows through higher education. And if you look at the last several years, there's been huge inefficiency in the Department of Education, despite the fact that all that money flows through. The federal financial aid process was delayed. It was riddled with errors. The same was true for a mandatory reporting requirement that applied to all colleges and universities. So I think there's a legitimate policy argument to be had whether or not the state should have more control over K through 12. But if you look at the higher education system, there has been huge inefficiency, and I think steps had to be taken.
Randi, what is your reply to Trump's executive order?
So first, it's great to see Jason, and I love what he's doing in terms of career ed, and we have to actually expand career ed, both in terms of K-12 and in terms of higher education. So let's actually put that aside for a second. This is the problem in terms of K-12, and I take Jason's point. I do think that the facet point is right. I mean, the last Department of Education did not do a good job in that transition. But the bottom line is this: the funding in K-12 is absolutely essential for children, and it goes directly to kids in schools across the country. In Western Pennsylvania, it funds things like lowering class size, paraprofessionals in classrooms, summer school, after school, computers, rural help, all of this stuff. Plus, it funds directly kids who have disabilities, and it funds their help. So it is filling opportunity gaps. The chart you're showing is basically showing that the states have not done the job they ought to do in terms of education, because the federal government doesn't control curriculum. It doesn't actually control federal policy. It's the states that control it. What the federal government does is do opportunities. So should we, or fills in opportunity gaps. So should we actually make it more efficient? Hell yes. In fact, my union actually didn't want the Department of Education in the first place. We thought it should stay as HEW. But now that we have it, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to make it more efficient.
Yeah, so Randi, are you saying, do you feel that this will be catastrophic for American teachers and students? Tell me why in just a couple sentences.
At this point, yes, because we don't know what's going to happen with $100 billion that the federal Department of Education is now charged with getting out to the states. That's $1 out of every $9 that kids get. And ultimately, without that funding funds huge opportunity gaps in states. We need that funding, and we need the expertise.
Yeah, Jason, let's go over to you, because we are running a little low on time, and I want to get your voice in here. You know, one of the reasons that the president says he made the Education Department decision is because funding has increased astronomically since 1980, but these test scores, as we see, have not improved. Why do you think that is? Do you think dismantling the Education Department will fix that?
Well, I think what the president has proposed is to give more local control. And if you look at the people who are closest to the decision making at the state and certainly at the school board level, those are the folks that understand the local communities, the needs of the school districts. But as you say, yes, money has flowed through there. Test scores have not improved. I would say in higher education, hundreds of millions of dollars flow through community colleges, public universities at the state level. You can decide whether or not you think graduation rates are adequate with regard to many of those institutions. But I do think there is a policy argument to be had about having more local control in the decision making.
Jason, feelings about closing the department are lopsided. We see a new poll by Fox News showing that shutting down the agency is among the least liked Trump proposals. About 32% in favor, 65% are opposed to this. Why do you think this is?
Well, I think that there's a difference of opinion. Obviously, the conservative side of the political equation has been for closing the Department of Education literally for decades since it was started in 1979. And many people now are used to the Department of Education. They're concerned that if you close it, it's going to harm their local school districts. It will decrease the quality of education. So I do think the president and Secretary McMahon have a public relations issue where they have to go out and explain why they feel like this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and Randi, I want to go back over to you. Yeah, go ahead.
I
You have the
don't think
floor.
I don't think it's just public relations, Jason. I think the issue is people understand that the federal role was to actually provide the money that states didn't provide, that localities didn't provide, and local school districts rely on this money. The Title I money, the IDEA money, the money for rural schools, these all fill in gaps, and they understand that we really need that. That's why people are opposed to closing the Department of Education. Nobody wants bureaucracy. We want it to be more efficient, but we don't want to lose that money. We don't want poor kids to lose it. We don't want rural kids to lose it. We don't want kids who are taking career tech ed to lose it. We don't want kids who are learning English to lose it. This is what this money goes for, and every parent of kids in schools, in public schools throughout the country, understand what this money goes for, and they don't want to lose it.
Okay, I appreciate you both.
Appreciate
you both. I'm sorry we're out of time, but really appreciate what both of you brought to the show tonight. Randi Weingarten, Jason Altmire, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.